Welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up the NPKB story. You know, the startup with the three engineers, Lucas, Kyler, Alex, and the business brain, Michael Ho.
Right. And last time, we saw them nail down the theory of their software modem, using the PC's processor to make modem chips way cheaper.
But theory's one thing. Now we get into the thick of it. Chapters 16 to 23. This is where they actually try to sell this thing. The real world hits hard.
Yeah, this is the ultimate commercial gut check. They've got the tech, they think it's revolutionary, but now they have to face the giants, the market, and their own limitations.
Okay, so they're low on cash, but still pretty bullish, right? And the first site is Taiwan, the heart of PC manufacturing.
Exactly. Michael Ho and Kyler head out there. They hit like 27 different companies. Modem card makers, motherboard guys, PC assemblers, the whole ecosystem.
Trying to find customers for their 14K modem chip disrupt Rockwell's dominance, but sounds like they walked right into a buzzsaw.
Two major ones, really.
Yeah.
First, the competitive shock. They thought their whole use the PC CPU thing was unique.
Yeah, their big selling point.
Well, it turns out, nope. The manufacturers basically said, oh yeah, Rockwell and Lucent, they already have controllerless chipsets.
Controllerless. Okay, break that down for us. What does that actually mean?
So your standard modem chip has its own brain, right? A controller, expensive part, does all the heavy lifting, analog to digital, all that stuff.
Got it.
Controllerless meant the big guys were already starting to offload some of that work onto the main PC processor. Not fully, like NPKB planned, but enough.
Enough to make NPKB's idea seem less revolutionary.
Exactly. It seriously undercut their unique selling proposition.
Yeah.
And, you know, it seems the technical founders, Kyler and Lucas, might have known this, or maybe hadn't researched it properly, but Michael Ho was apparently kept in the dark.
Oof. That's tough internal dynamics already.
And the second shock.
Timing. The 14K modem, their only product. It was already on its way out.
Wow.
The Taiwanese makers told them flat out, you've got maybe a year, before the market switches to the faster 28K modems. Wow. So they were late before they even started selling.
Pretty much. Their whole development timeline just got incredibly compressed. Suddenly, it wasn't just about being cheaper. It was about being fast. Like right now.
And then there's this Rockwell effect you mentioned. It sounds like Rockwell just completely owned the Taiwanese scene.
Oh, totally.
Oh.
It wasn't just about having the best chip. Rockwell controlled the entire supply chain. They told manufacturers like GVC, ASCII, what to build, how much to build, what price to sell it at. Even dictated their quality control.
So these Taiwanese companies weren't really designing anything, just assembling.
Largely, yes.
Yeah.
High-volume factories, very dependent. They didn't have the engineering depth or, frankly, the leverage to just switch to a tiny startup like NPKB, even if the tech was interesting. Rockwell was the gatekeeper.
Okay, so plan A, sell to the big guys, attack the city, as Michael Ho put it, that was dead on arrival.
Completely. You can't fight the king by trying to convert his most loyal vassals, right? So Michael Ho had to pivot. Hard.
To the village surrounds the city strategy, going after the smaller fish.
Exactly. Second-tier, third-tier players. Newcomers, maybe. Anyone who wasn't totally locked into Rockwell's ecosystem. It was, well, humbling, but necessary for survival. Find someone hungry, someone willing to take a chance.
And that pivot leads directly to finding some much-needed cash, right, with Steve from CTB.
Yeah, this was crucial. Michael Ho managed to get a meeting with Steve, the boss of CTB, a big keyboard maker looking to get into modems.
Keyboards to modems, okay.
Steve wasn't a tech guy, apparently. Couldn't wrap his head around the modem tech until Michael Ho came up with this analogy.
Ah, the musician analogy.
That's the one. He described it like two musicians, far apart, trying to play together perfectly over a crackly phone line. The modem chip, NPKB software really, was the incredibly smart brain figuring out how to make the music clear despite the noise.
That's brilliant. Simple, clear.
It clicked for Steve. He got it. And he didn't just invest $300,000 of his own money.
Which was a lifeline.
A huge lifeline. But he also agreed to use NPKB's chips in his new modem cards. And he hired George, someone the founders knew, to run that division. So instant customer and ally.
That's huge. Money and a guaranteed first customer. But let's contrast that with the VC experience. They met Tim, a top-tier VC, earlier. He said no, but gave some pointed advice.
Yeah, Tim's rejection was almost as valuable as Steve's investment. In hindsight, he ripped into their plan. Two main things.
Okay.
One, he hated that NPKB wanted to sell both chips and finished modem cards, competing with your own customers. Bad idea, he said.
Makes sense. Cannibalizing your market.
Right. And two, he thought asking for only $1 million was, well, unambitious. almost clueless.
Wait, asking for too little money is bad. I thought VCs liked less risk.
Not always. For tech aiming to disrupt giants like Rockwell, asking for just a million signals you don't understand the scale of the fight, it means you're thinking too small.
So what was Tim's advice?
Blunt. He just said, you should go talk to Intel.
Intel, the CPU company. Why would they care about a little modem chip startup?
NPKB had no idea at the time. It seemed completely random. But Michael Ho, remembering this maybe, insisted the whole founding team go to the Comdex trade show. Not just for sales leads, but for intelligence.
And that's where Tim's advice suddenly made perfect sense.
Bingo. Andy Grove, Intel's CEO, gets up on stage. Huge announcement, unexpected. He declares the future of the PC is native signal processing, NSP.
NSP, native signal processing. Okay, what is that?
It's exactly what NPKB was doing, using the main PC processor, the Pentium, to do the complex signal processing work for things like modems, sound cards, you name it, getting rid of expensive dedicated chips.
Whoa, so Intel, the biggest chip company in the world, basically just validated NPKB's entire reason for existing.
Pretty much. It was this massive aha moment. Suddenly, Tim's advice wasn't random. It was prophetic. Intel needed technologies like NPKBs to make NSP a reality. Their little startup was suddenly incredibly relevant to the biggest player on the board.
That must have completely changed their focus.
Instantly. Forget just surviving Rockwell. The new mission, target Intel.
Target Intel how? Sell to them.
Options were open. License the tech to Intel. Sell the product through Intel. Or the dream scenario. Get acquired by Intel. Intel was now the strategic endgame.
Okay, so huge external validation from Intel, massive strategic shift. But inside the company, the pressure cooker is starting to whistle, right? Especially with the actual product.
Yeah, reality check time again. Just as they get this strategic boost, they get bad news from their manufacturing partner, LG Semicon.
The ASIC, the actual mass market chip.
Delayed. Pushed back to August 1995. Manufacturing problems. LG was overloaded.
Explain the difference. And they had a prototype, right, on an FPGA.
Right, the FPGA prototype worked. They can demo it. But it was big, expensive.
Yeah.
Not something you could sell millions of. The ASIC is the tiny, cheap, mass-producible version. That's the real product.
And that delay kills their already tight timeline.
Crushes it. Remember that one-year window for the 14K modem? August 95 delivery meant they'd miss a huge chunk of it. Plus, the ASIC cost them $5 a pop.
$5? That sounds like a lot for a chip meant to be low cost.
It was, especially back then. But LG was pretty much the only foundry willing to take their small order, so they had to pay the premium. It just squeezed everything.
So technical delays, financial pressure, and leadership questions starting to surface. Michael Ho makes a move.
He does. He goes to Kyler, the CEO, privately, says something like, look, let me take the wheel for 2 years. I'm the taxi driver. I know the streets out here. You built the car. Let me drive it through this storm.
Wow, bold move. How did Kyler take that?
Politely declined. Kyler recognized Michael Ho was essential, but he wasn't ready to give up the CEO title. He wanted to keep the original structure. Typical founder loyalty, maybe some ego, you know.
Yeah, that transition from technical founder to market-facing CEO is always tricky.
Super tricky. Michael Ho promised full support, kept the peace politically, which was crucial, but you can tell he was frustrated. He saw the need for speed, for commercial aggression, and felt Kyler was moving too slow.
And Michael Ho wasn't just dealing with Kyler, he was also playing mediator elsewhere. Lucas, the technical perfectionist.
Yeah, Lucas was brilliant, the core technical guy, but also, apparently, very difficult. Perfectionist, hypercritical. The sources mention him trying to fire another engineer, Hung Philly, over some coding details.
Ouch. In a small startup, that kind of friction can be fatal.
Totally. Michael Ho knew how fragile they were. Lose one key founder or engineer, and the whole thing could collapse. So he spent a lot of time smoothing feathers, keeping Lucas focused on the main goal, stopping these internal battles, just keeping everyone executing.
Okay, so team stress is high, the chip is delayed, but Intel has validated them. And now Lucas and Kyler are demanding sales for a chip that doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. They're desperate for revenue, for proof points. They basically tell Michael Ho, go get orders now.
And Michael Ho's reaction is?
Pretty much, are you kidding me? How do I sell a ghost? What's the magic spell? He knew the big Taiwanese players weren't going to bite on a promise, not with Rockwell breathing down their necks.
So who would buy a ghost chip?
The desperate ones. The foreign distributors, especially in places like Japan and Korea. They were starving for product, any product that wasn't Rockwell, and really starving for better profit margins.
The Rockwell squeeze gave MPKB an opening elsewhere. Scarcity becomes leverage.
Precisely. So Michael Ho and Alex head to Japan and Korea, and they don't just pitch the tech. They create this super detailed standard operating procedure, an SOP, for the product demo.
An SOP? Why?
To build instant credibility. Looks super professional, but the pitch wasn't about, speeds and feeds. It was brutally simple. Money. Our chip gives you 1.6 times the profit margin of Rockwell, and we guarantee you supply.
Guaranteed supply of a chip they weren't making yet?
Exactly. The catch was the distributors had to commit fully.
How did he lock them in?
This was the masterstroke. He demanded a 10% prepayment, cash up front, and they had to submit a detailed 3-year business plan showing how they'd sell NPKB's chips.
Wow. Asking for money and homework for a product months away from reality.
It sounds crazy, but it worked. It filtered out anyone not serious. If you were willing to put cash down and map out 3 years for a ghost chip, you were committed. And it brought in NPKB's first actual orders, $350,000 worth.
$350K for a chip that was still just an idea on an FPGA board. That's incredible salesmanship.
Pure hustle, confidence, and understanding market desperation.
But selling it is one thing, delivering is another. Did these early customers, especially the Japanese, have expectations?
Oh, did they ever? This leads to another crucial, painful lesson. The Japanese distributor, CEU, sends 3 engineers over to NPKB for 2 weeks.
Okay, due diligence?
More like quality control boot camp. They arrive with a list, a 150-point checklist of quality control demands. Granular stuff. The source calls it the Japanese cleanliness obsession.
150 points. How did the NPKB engineers react?
Lucas and Kyler were apparently horrified. This wasn't academic research anymore. This was industrial-level product scrutiny, cable routing, documentation standards, error handling, everything.
Sounds painful, but was there an upside?
Huge upside long-term. It forced NPKB to mature. They had to meticulously test, document, and standardize everything. They generated massive amounts of test files and procedures they probably never would have created otherwise.
So the Japanese obsession basically built their quality assurance program for them.
In a way, yes. It turned their functional prototype into something approaching an enterprise-ready product. Painful, but invaluable later, especially when dealing with bigger players like Intel.
And speaking of partners, Michael Ho found another ally, this time in Singapore. Someone less conservative than the Taiwanese.
Yeah, M-Wave, run by a guy named Chen Aibo.
Yeah.
Ambitious, English-speaking. Crucially, M-Wave wasn't scared off by the CPU load issue.
The potential downside of NPKB's approach using the PC's processor could slow down the PC itself.
Right. The Taiwanese majors were very worried about that. But Chen Aibo and M-Wave were brave, as the book puts it. They were willing to ignore that potential issue or bet it wouldn't matter and commit to high-volume testing right away. They were the perfect agile, risk-taking early adopter.
Okay, so they have money, first orders, key allies, painful but useful quality checks, and the looming Intel question. They finally get the meeting.
Yes. Big moment. They meet with Ron Witt, a senior VP at Intel, and his engineering team. They demo the 14K modem on their FPGA board.
How did it go?
Intel was impressed. Impressed enough that they asked to keep the evaluation board for a few days to run their own tests.
Wow. Intel wants to test their gear. That's huge validation.
Monumental. But then there's this moment. Michael Ho suggests leaving one of their engineers behind at Intel, to help with the testing, answer questions immediately.
Seems sensible.
Kyler and Lucas said no. They were apparently worried about Intel stealing their secrets, wanted to keep things close, prioritize secrecy over support.
Ooh, risky call. Letting Intel test it alone with no one there to explain any quirks.
Very risky. So the NPKB team flies home, anxious, waiting. Their entire Intel strategy, maybe the future of the company, now hangs on the results of tests happening behind Intel's closed doors.
What a cliffhanger. Okay, so let's recap. NPKB has screwed together funding, got their first orders for a product that technically doesn't exist yet, navigated massive market shocks in Taiwan, got validated by the huge NSP trend.
And crucially, they've been forced by the market, by Rockwell's dominance, by Japanese quality demands, by investor skepticism to start acting less like a lab project and more like a real business, building SOPs, demanding prepayments, focusing on margins.
It really hammers home that innovation isn't just the tech. It's the whole commercial wrapper around it, which makes you think. What other absolutely essential non-technical things like those Japanese QC docs or the prepayment demands do startups often get forced into by the market? Things they resist but turn out to be critical for survival.
That is a great question, something definitely worth pondering. Because next time, the wait is over. Intel's test results land, And those results will trigger another massive pivot, forcing MPKB to redefine everything again. Amidst internal crises and chaos in Taiwan, they finally give their tech its name, the HSP modem. Join us next time for the chapter titled Crises.